Things to talk about. I don't know. Should we go around the room? Do the classic, who am I? What are you doing?
Yeah, I think that's a good start.
I guess I'll start. Wesley Whetstone. I do all the macOS client laptop management here at Square. We've been using Salt for 2-ish years, and it works pretty great. So trying to give it a little bit more love, add some more modules in here and there, and yeah. So thanks for coming. Oh, look at that. Everybody with videos on. This is great.
I can go next if no one else wants to.
Sure.
So I'm Gareth Greenaway. I'm on the core team at Salt. I got I guess roped into this because I've been fixing a number of the bugs on macOS lately, as well as spending some time moving over that's the testing infrastructure to use Kitchen Salt. So previously it was just using just the regular not Kitchen Salt. So that's been my life for the last couple of weeks. It's really, really close, and I'm really excited that it's really close. So it'll make things a lot better. But yeah, super excited to get the Mac OS some more love, and get some bugs fixed. So thanks.
Doing good work, buddy. Doing good work.
Okay. I'm Joaquin from Spain. By the way, my English is not very good. I can understand you all, but speaking is not my not very good. I have money in a lot of office around the world, and I'm the guy of the Mac guy in the company. So everything about Mac is my job, and we want to start automating everything in our fleet, in our MacOS fleet, and we decided to use Salt. So I'm here to learn a little about Salt with you guys.
I can go next. My name is, make sure you guys can hear me here.
Yep, you're good, bud.
Okay. Sorry, we use Skype here, so that's a prerequisite to every Skype meeting.
Yeah, I feel you.
So my name is Brian Lasham. I live in Minneapolis here, working for Target, doing device management. Been through several configuration management tools over the years, Puppet, Chef. I'm on Salt now because I like Python and I don't like Ruby. And I don't kind of like how Chef does things. I think Salt makes a little more sense to me. So yeah, just kind of new with Salt. So 3 to 4 months maybe.
Okay, awesome. I can go next. I'm Kavya. I'm the product manager of the Salt Open team. I'm basically to facilitate this discussion and help you in whichever way the group needs me to. In groups for the very first time, we are making sure at least there is a Salt core representative in each of these meetings. And since Gareth is going to be part of pretty much each of the sync up these discussions, I might show up like rarely and may not be in part of like every meeting. But then I'm reachable on Slack, email. I mean, you can reach out to me if there are any help in terms of whether it could be like resources, scheduling meeting, or even in terms of if you need any discussions about where the roadmap is heading from the Salt core team perspective that you need to sync up to what like the working group roadmap is heading to. I think I'm there. I'm available for all of those items. So That's it about me. I'm based in Utah, so I work mostly out of the headquarters in Lehigh.
Sweet. Thank you so much for putting this all together. I thought it was fantastic whenever I saw the whole working group thing pop up. So yeah, I think especially all the people from SALT, thank you guys so much for doing this. I think it's great. And Kabi, you definitely have the best chair out of all of us. So need to upgrade the chair situation.
My husband will be very pleased to hear.
Awesome. Let's see here. I guess, where to start? I guess I'll start with, I've been messing around with macOS Catalina. I know that's a few months off, seeing how Salt does. The core code works great. But the only issue I've seen so far is if you try and use any modules or states with the PyObjective-C library, it causes the like minion thread to just die unexpectedly. So that's fun. I don't know if that's a Mac problem. It's definitely not a Salt problem. I'm trying to figure out if it's a PyObjective-C problem, but if anybody like does some testing or anything and notices that with some of the third-party modules that we have out there, you might notice that behavior. But it works fine on a like a single thread like Salt call. So things to be aware. I don't know if anybody else has seen that or noticed that, but definitely something we're noticing over here.
So are you saying that because you run masterless, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you set multi-threading to false, then does the problem go away?
No, so that was the fix before because the so when you have it's multi-processing, I believe, set to true, then it uses the multi-processing Python libraries, but if you set that to false, then it uses threading. I don't know if Garrett knows any more about that, but that is that's like, so I'm trying to track that down to see if in fact that if you like set up a different like daemonized minion process and try and use the threading to see if that does anything or not, but that's all I can tell so far.
So one of the things that I was wondering about when you mentioned it, just when we were chatting briefly about like Test Kitchen and you like trying out Catalina is, I'm wondering like how many people, like what's the yeah, I guess just the number of people that are using it in that way, like using not just like straight Python, but using it's based on like what it's called now, what you just said, PyObjects, is it?
PyObjective-C, yeah.
PyObjective-C. I'm wondering, like going forward, like once we get on our side, on the Salt side, once we get the testing infrastructure more stable for macOS, if it makes sense to also kind of look at testing things using PyObjective-C as well. If there's a number of people using it, that way we could potentially catch a lot of these issues that you're running into beforehand.
Yeah, I think the addition of PyObjective-C into the main macOS package is what has sparked a lot of interest in Salt from most Mac folks. Because you can do things that you couldn't normally do through like subprocess or shelling out to a command line tool. Hitting the native APIs of Mac from Python without having to do anything like that been really cool on our end. Like we've written some modules that you can't normally, like other config management tools can't do it unless they shell out to Python, to PyObjective-C that comes with the system, but that's like all very old. I mean, yeah, if we could like, and I'm happy to help as much as I can in any of like the testing cases, but I think we definitely just need to narrow it down, whether it's like macOS causing the problem, because I mean, it's a beta, right? Or, you know, if it's, you know, the actual PyObjective-C library. I'm probably going to open an issue today once I can actually get something reproducible down versus like, hey, install salt and then like do this thing. Maybe I can just have like a single like 20-line Python script that like replicates the same process. But yeah, I guess is anybody else, is there any other issues that haven't been filed or issues you're noticing or anything like that from anybody else who's doing anything? I know, Eric, you saw some weird behavior with parallels, it looks like. Can't replicate that in VMware. So I don't know if that's a parallels thing or not. But once I tried parallels, it showed up for sure.
Remind me, was it me that mentioned it?
Yeah, you saw, was it IPC stuff?
Yeah, I don't know if that was actually, if I actually ended up, if that was a legitimate issue or if it was just like something unrelated. But yeah, for those that don't know, that was I had a theory of I kept seeing like weird stuff with our testing suite, and I thought like the fact that we were running stuff out of temp, IPC related things out of temp was causing problems. But then I saw the same thing with not running out of temp. I'm trying to remember now.
Yeah, it was.
It turned out not to be like an issue. Not to be the issue that I thought it was.
Yeah, it looks like you fixed it, at least. I just thought it was very funny that was only happening on Parallels VMs and not like main machines or bare metal, I should say. But I don't know, Brian, how have things been going for you? I know you're getting ready, rolling with some stuff. I actually ran into your manager at the Mac DevOps conference, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Our principal engineer, Pete, was he's like, I bought Wes a beer. Things have been going well. I like a lot of what Salt does. Sometimes the documentation's a little spotty, so I think any effort that we do here, make sure we bring documentation along. I don't know if that's part of this. Is the working group expected to do documentation, or is that broken away from the core team or something? Maybe you guys know that have been more active in the project.
I mean, I say we can do anything, or like, I mean, documentation first and foremost. Those are easy fixes.
Yeah, I'd totally say, I mean, documentation is would certainly be a huge part of that. And especially from the core team perspective, we don't have any dedicated documentation folks that can kind of like take this up. So, I mean, any help with the documentation is a major boost.
Yeah, a future idea might be a documentation working group on its own. Might be something.
Yep.
Could be a way to get non-technical people involved as well, or less technical.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
For sure. Let's see here.
I was going to ask one question here. So you guys mentioned, like Gareth mentioned, testing in Parallels. Is there any CI/CD testing for macOS, like in a cloud services provider or anything like that?
So right now we're using, we have our own Mac minis that we're using for running Parallels, that we're running automated tests with. And it's the same test that we run on, or will eventually be the same test that we run on like Ubuntu and Windows, that we run in AWS. We've looked at some of the cloud providers. Wes had suggested a couple of them, but we're just not quite there yet in terms of being able to use them. I think one of them, one in particular was based on what I remember, it was the equivalent of what we have now. So it's like bare metal servers, and I think eventually they might be providing, if it's the one I'm thinking of that you would recommended, Wes, they are looking to do like Docker containers on macOS.
Yeah, Mac Stadium. I didn't.
Yeah, that's the one, Mac Stadium.
Yeah, they've got some Frankenstein thing going where they have like Linux with Kubernetes, like straight on the metal that runs Mac OS Docker containers, so you can like orchestrate everything, like, you know, Kubernetes wise. Pretty crazy stuff, but yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, if anyone has suggestions on any like cloud services that we should look at, by all means pass them along, and I'll run them up the chain and see what happens. But right now we're basically using our own kind of parallels based testing infrastructure. And like I said at the beginning, like some of my efforts the last couple of weeks have been trying to get it over to using Test Kitchen. And it's really close. It's really, really close. I'm hoping that in the next like week or two that we'll be able to finalize that and have some an actual branch-based testing for Mac OS on a consistent basis rather.
Maybe you can try. I don't know the name. I think it's Anka from Bit2. It's they are using the hypervisor framework from Apple, and they have something like a Docker registry but for MacOS machines, something virtual machines, but you can deploy very quickly. But right now, the only problem I found with their service is that you can't use S3 to have all your virtual machines, because they don't. What is the word? They don't provide service for block storage like S3. Huh. So yeah, but it's a very, very interesting solution, because Anka and a service like Mac Stadium can give you a CI/CD workflow very easy. But in my case, I can't use any local storage for that. So I'm waiting for support for S3 packets. But I recommend to take a look.
Okay.
Yeah,
if you wouldn't mind dropping a link in the macOS channel on Community Slack, that would be appreciated.
Yeah, I messed around with it a little bit, like right when they started. They do some cool stuff, but they just have like a nice Jenkins plugin that allows you to spin up like a macOS VM real quick, and all that fun stuff. And I thought I posted that in the channel before, but just do it again.
One of the things that I had noticed, actually, one of the other core team members had passed along was that you can do, I don't know like how extensive it is, but I guess you can do some macOS VMs in Azure now.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's played around with that at all.
I know you can do, so Azure has macOS support for its CI system. Circle CI has support. And I want to say Travis, but is Travis even a thing anymore? I forget who.
Yeah, I thought that got acquired and then kind of shelved.
Yeah, but to the best of my knowledge, all of those like Mac OS CI systems all use Mac Stadium to host.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Whatever CI service you find out there, usually at the end of the rainbow is Mac Stadium hosting all the Macs.
Yeah, right now Mac Stadium is the king in these things.
Yeah, no, for sure. Oh yeah, okay. Hey, cool. Let's see here. I'll take a look at the Salt Stack open issues from Mac OS. Nobody else has any ideas. And if anybody wants to like try and take a stab at fixing them or I guess that kind of fun stuff, I guess that's what we can do here.
Do you have any ideas on some of the code that's in the community repo, the Mosen OS 10 repo? If you had any designs on introducing any of that into core for this release, or is that something we'll wait to do later?
So yes, I had planned. So there's a bunch of stuff. I don't know if Garrett, I'll put it in the little chat channel here, which is basically a little like third-party library we have for Mac OS stuff. Where is the chat? Chat. I am so bad at Zoom. There we go. But basically, that's a GitHub library that has a bunch of macOS specific stuff that probably aren't multi-platform friendly. And some of it's a lot older, as Mosen was using Salt on macOS way before like it was even actually supported by Salt Stack. And so the interesting thing, and this is why I was very concerned about Catalina, is a lot of the modules in there use PyObjective-C. There might be like one that doesn't. And I'm hesitant about putting modules in core that if somebody just randomly tries to run on a Salt minion and then it just crashes the whole thing. That's like my only concern. Like we can put big, like, hey, warning, this doesn't work very well running from a Salt minion process. Like it works through Salt call, but that was my only concern that I had at the moment. But if it works just fine later with, just setting multi-processing to false, then I think it would be nice. But I mean, Garrett would know more on if that's a good idea or a bad idea.
Yeah, no, I mean, I go ahead, Brent.
Oh, no, you can go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I would kind of share your hesitation there, Wes, about putting the PyObjective-C ones in there without like some sort of explanation that it requires PyObjective-C, or perhaps like have it in there, but also have a version that doesn't require PyObjective-C. And then like within like the virtual functions, like do some detection. Like if you're running under PyObjective-C, use this version. If not, do that. Because I'd hate for someone to like attempt to run it and not be using PyObjective-C and everything crashes and they just get like a kind of a bad experience with Salt right off the get-go.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the interesting things is it's most of the Pi Objective-C models are there because there is no other way to do it. So it's like an all or nothing
Got
kind
it.
of thing.
Okay. Got it.
But yeah, no, most of the modules we've written, they have a test to see if, Pi Objective-C is available. But I mean, my main concern was like a state failing is like one thing, but then like the whole minion process collapsing is like another thing.
Right.
So I'm gonna we'll see if this is in fact like a real issue to be concerned about. If it is, then probably not, and we'll just keep using the third party stuff, and we can put some big warnings and stuff everywhere. I'm assuming Salt doesn't, and this is a very silly question. Salt doesn't have like a third party module and state stuff, does it? I know there's like formulas.
Yeah, we have like a Salt contrib repository. Excuse me. But it's not very well maintained at the moment. So that a lot of stuff there is a lot of the stuff there that is community driven is maintained by the community, by community members, but it's not, we don't pay as close attention to it as we would if we had more resources.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, I guess one of the I guess once we figure out like what the heck's happening with like threading and Pi Objective-C, we can go from there. But if not, I mean, definitely. I mean, it's. I don't want to say it's quite simple, but I mean, running the third-party modules and states is like one of the beauties of Salt. Like it just works.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that we have, and this would actually be some good things to for that plan. But one of the things that we've talked about doing for a while is breaking out a lot of the what was considered Salt core into different repositories, so it's easier to maintain and easier to maintain from the community. And so like bringing like some like these Mac specific modules into like kind of a quote unquote official Salt repository that's maintained by a community would be a good move forward, I think.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Have you guys ever talked about doing something like a Puppet Forge Ansible Galaxy supermarket type thing?
Yeah, not to that. I don't know if we would go to that level, but something similar to that. So like, I mean, just using the Mac example, it would be like I don't know, like we would have Salt core, which would be like the stuff that you need to run Salt at its basic level. So like the CMD module, the file module, all the stuff that like other modules use. And then additional repositories would be like, I don't know, anything related to cloud modules would be in one. And then anything related to like Mac modules would be in another one. And that way they would be under the Salt umbrella, but they would be maintained by the community. And so the community would have total control over them. So something like that is what we were kind of loosely thinking about.
Wes, is there anything that you see in other like the chef stuff that you think that those design patterns that they've added to core for that product would be something we would add to Salt? Or
to my limited knowledge, I think the only thing that is in like core code would be profiles. Profiles doesn't require PyObjective-C, but given Apple's recent documentation of using profiles and then the install feature of that is probably going away in the next version. I'm not sure if it's worth putting in. Beforehand, I was totally thinking about doing that. But nowadays, it looks like profiles are best used through MDM. But what I am working on is a proxy minion module to do profiles with Salt through like MDM. So that's a bit of a Frankenstein idea, but I think it's going to work really well. Garrett, I don't know if you know, MDM is Apple's official management way to do things. It sucks. Hence why everybody else uses all this other stuff. But basically, Apple is slowly taking away the ability to do things on the machine if it's not done through MDM. One of those is profiles, like configuration profiles. So the idea is to do like dynamic based profiles or whatever, like from grain data, if you like, for instance, and then pushing them to your MDM provider using a proxy minion through the API. And then having the MDM install all the profiles that you would want. But you can still get all the great dynamic ability from a configuration management tool versus like going into a GUI and assigning to like 17 different individual machines and like doing all that fun stuff. So it's something my team's working on at the moment. But I don't know, Brian, were there any any modules you thought about in particular? I'm assuming profiles is one of them. Launch D and services is pretty much already covered.
I mean, I'm interested to see that proxy minion thing you work on. That sounds pretty cool. Although that will not work with masterless, is that correct?
Yes. So yeah, I do believe proxy minion requires, so it would be a completely separate server. Like it wouldn't actually run on any of the machines that you have out in the wild. You'd probably run it on like a Linux machine. Garrett, does a proxy minion actually require a master, or can you set up a masterless proxy minion? I know that's getting meta, but.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with the proxy minions. I've done a little bit, but nothing too extensive. So I'm not 100% sure on that one. Based on just thinking about how they work, I kind of suspect that it does need a master. But maybe not.
Yeah, because I'm thinking we could probably use the same method where you just have the minion process and then there's just the proxy modules. I wish Mosen wasn't in Australian time. I'd tell him to join, but it's, 3 o'clock in the morning.
He was the only person to sign up for a proxy minion working group, which is probably why it didn't happen.
Oh, really? Yeah, good old Mosen.
I think that was one of the ones that we had talked about. Kavya, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was one of the ones we had talked about possibly picking up later. We just wanted to start with kind of an initial group of them initially.
Hey, Gareth, I was away for a while. I missed the conversation.
Oh, sorry. No, we were just saying like someone had signed up to suggested like having a proxy minion working group. And they said that I think that was one of the ones that we had talked about doing eventually, but we wanted to start with these ones initially.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we have received interest for that, the formula working groups and even the documentation, actually. There are some of the other working groups we would certainly add in the next term. So yeah, I can make a note that this is something that would be viable for the future.
Yeah, especially once Apple gets rid of all non-MDM management tools.
That's a strange move. Well, I guess not that strange considering, but
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the same methodology as, well, you can't run Salt on iOS. So
true.
they're beforehand, I think they were really thinking about like converging them into one. But I think now there are a bunch of us that are pushing Apple to, like, we get, you don't want random launch daemons being installed and, you know, for like security purposes. But like, hey, here's a signed launch daemon with like this team ID. Let this one run, that kind of thing. But you know, that's like for sure future macOS working group problems versus right now.
So
But
I'm curious, like, so this MDM thing, can you manage iOS devices using it?
yeah, that's the primary use of MDM, or why it was built, to manage iOS devices.
Okay, so in theory, with this proxy minion idea, you could manage iOS devices with Salt.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. You could manage iOS, tvOS, any Apple OS, really, because the MDM basically just offers an API to it.
That would be really cool. Really cool.
Yeah, that's definitely something we've been thinking about on the back burner, and which has kept me interested in macOS in general, because MDM sucks, but Salt's great. So, all right. Anybody else have any talking points? Next time I'll try and be slightly more prepared. But I think. I think I'll probably do, if folks are interested, I can probably go through and look at any open macOS related issues. And if, like, I can probably, some are probably easier than others. Probably go through and, like, if somebody wants to try and like do a fix at it, some might be more difficult than others. So if there's any like good first timer issues, people are interested, I could probably send them your way if you want to take a try at fixing them. I don't know if that's something people are interested in, or don't want Gareth just, you know, being the only guy trying to fix open macOS issues.
Yeah, more help would be appreciated.
Wait, where are? Is it it's capital M for Mac? Oh, there it is. A space in between Mac and OS. There it is. Oh, let's see here. But yeah, I guess we've got a little bit of time left. Any comments, concerns?
Do we know the future or roadmap for Pi Objective-C? Has Apple ever said anything about it? I know there's not really going to be a Pi Swift.
So Pi Objective-C is a third-party library that uses, I believe, C code to get to Objective-C. And there's pretty much one maintainer of that library, and he's been doing it for a very long time. So his name's Ronald. Outside of, I'm assuming Objective-C is going to stick around, as a lot of the OS still is like written around that. But yeah, I guess we'll see. I hope it sticks around. It's pretty nice.
I hope Ronald stays healthy.
Yeah, same. I know he's already added a bunch of some of the new libraries that became available in Catalina. He's added those already. Like, I mean, he works on it like quite a lot. But yeah, I think hopefully by the end of the week, I'll be able to figure out if this is in fact a Pi Objective-C problem, or if Apple is just saying no more threading or multiprocessing from LaunchD to get there. So I was talking with one of the other Apple employees, and he mentioned that I think is it Launch CTL has documentation about don't do lots of threading from LaunchD because you might have a bad time. So I don't know if that's something to be concerned about, but it seems to work fine for just like normal stuff. Whenever you get fancy, that's when it seems to have a hard time, at least for now. Oh, Garrett, I guess when is we can still get bug fixes into Neon, correct? Clearly. And then do you know when 2019 2.1 is going to ship?
Go ahead, Kavya.
Yeah. The estimated date is, I mean, sometime in July.
Okay.
So it's coming up soon.
Okay. Yeah. In that case, I'll try and get at least one or two fixes. I know that I have file those pull requests. I think it was last week I noticed an issue where the service state, if you have a launch daemon that is not loaded and disabled, and you tell Salt to make sure it's running and enabled, Salt will try and start the service before enabling it, and you can't start a disabled service on macOS. So I have a little fix there for that.
I ran into this today.
Yeah.
Was it just like an ordering thing? Like it was trying to start it before enabling it or something?
Yeah. So I just basically, before the state tries to start it, I just did a quick check, like if macOS do enable and then start it, and it works just fine.
Sure.
So I don't know if that's or how that works for other platforms. So I'm assuming can you enable a service or disable it prior to starting it and or stopping it?
I know for Windows, you need to have it enabled before it starts. Otherwise, if you do it reverse, it will never start.
Okay. But it looks like on Linux and stuff like that, you can definitely do that. Otherwise, the state wouldn't work.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's already something in there that's checking to make sure that it's already started, or sorry, already enabled before attempting to start it.
Yeah, well, I think the original thought process was enable on other platforms is enable on boot, not like enable disable.
Right.
So that's where the terminology, I think, is getting mixed up and leading to some confusion. There is no, well, I guess the enable and disable on Mac OS is enable or disable being not on boot, but in general, at like any time. So, but yeah, Brian, I can send you the updated module that I have if you want to give that a whirl.
Yeah, I definitely would do that. Thank you.
But then I'll for sure get it upstream. Uh, Kavya, was SaltConf announced publicly yet for 19?
Yeah, they announced save the date for now.
Okay.
So that's mostly, I think, the tentative dates. But it was announced. I can take a look at that and ping you the exact dates and maybe the macOS group.
Yeah, I remember that being mentioned in the work group captains meeting, but I wasn't sure if that was like public knowledge or anything yet.
It is.
Cool. So yeah, if anybody wants a nice trip to Salt Lake City, SaltConf's pretty great.
So and Wesley, if we have a couple of minutes, I mean, I wanted to kind of bring to the attention that we now have like the working groups, basically the community repo. I mean, it's now public, and then we have some details about the working group. And I'm not sure how the macOS working group wants to do it, but I mean, some of the working groups that take like meeting notes and then upload it there. That's one of the way that they're using it. And also there are project boards. So if you want to, I mean, whenever kind of like the team takes up any tasks, it might be like nice and easier to add the task there. I've created a project board as well for the macOS. So
What are the project boards being done in again?
it's in the, I mean, you need the link for the project board.
Yeah. Well, I'm in the community repo.
Yeah, I sent a link, and which is basically the macOS working group link. And if you scroll down, you have a project board heading under that, and you have a link to the GitHub project board link.
Is that in the macOS community Salt? Or where was that posted?
SaltStack/community repo. That's the link basically which I pinged in the chat of the Zoom.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. I see here now.
So, and then you have the, okay, I should add Garrett too in here for the participants since he's going to be pretty active within the group. But yeah, apart from that, and the GitHub project board is up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I see this now. Nice. Awesome. Thank you.
No worries.
Cool. Yeah. And then I guess for the next one, and totally take notes. Or if somebody loves taking notes. But yeah, okay. Sweet.
Yeah, for the meetings that I'm part of, I mean, I can help in some note taking too and send across to the team.
Sure. Where did we want to put the actual, how are other folks doing it? Is it in just the docs?
I think the cloud team just uploaded their first meeting minutes. You can look at the cloud group. So they did a pull request and then they, all the captains of the working groups are basically the owners of the report. So you have, I mean, you can accept the pull request.
Okay. Okay, I see what they did here. Neat.
And the other thing is all of these working group meetings will be recorded and I'll get them uploaded on YouTube as well. So that's kind of will help, you know, bring in some eyes to the working group.
Sure.
More feedback basically, and like more basically community involvement, right?
Yeah, I know there's a bunch of folks that are interested in joining as well, that are in different, drastically different time zones, making it nearly impossible to have one total together. So that'll be good for them.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for coming, taking the time out of your very busy lives. And most certainly of all, Garrett, thank you for getting that kitchen stuff going. You're the hero we need.
Not the hero you deserve.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. This is great. Thanks, Wes, for taking captain.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Yep. Have a good one, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.